Hello, I'm Coach Natalie, and welcome to another episode of Jiu Jitsu for Dummies. Now, if you followed any of my videos for any length of time, you'll notice that we focus on submissions because, submissions kind of are the name of the game in Jiu Jitsu. But it's very unlikely that you're just going to wake up suddenly, you're in side control or on the mount or have the back mount. Depending on the size of your gym, a lot of matches will start, on the feet. Certainly if you're at a tournament, the matches start on the feet. And then someone has to do a takedown or the other person has to pull guard, which, means holding on to your opponent and, sitting on your butt. But you still need to be able to get around people's legs to actually get to that side control or mount or back mount. As you remember, we call someone's legs their guard because, that's actually guarding them from you. You're trying to get around their legs. They're trying to use their legs to, create distance and protect themselves. So how do we pass the guard? Well, today we're going to learn a couple of guard passes. One's a standing guard pass called the Bullfighter's pass. And then the other one is when we're kind of being on our knees, kind of actually what we call this combat base. But it's important to learn guard passing because, as I said, you need to get around people's legs before you can attack them. In fact, it's so important to get around people's legs that if you go to a tournament, they'll often give you 3 points for just getting around the legs. So let's check out the Bullfighter's pass and the split pass. Okay, the first pass that we're going to learn is the Bullfighter's pass. It's called the Bullfighter's pass because the movement, the shucking movement you make kind of, I guess, looks like a bullfighter with their little red cape. So, your opponent is, they'll either be sitting on their bottom, very unlikely that they'll be laying down like Sally here, but, you do what you can do. So, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab Sally's knees, the fabric on her knees. Now, sometimes people, their pants are kind of really tight, or maybe they're kind of a big person, so there might not be a lot of fabric at the knees, and you might actually have to do this by grabbing their ankles and shucking them. But Sally's doing a great job, not gaining weight, so plenty of fabric here. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab her knee fabric and control her knees. I'm going to shuck her knees to one side, exchange the fabric, and then come in for the final posture. Now, I'm going to do a couple of things here. Again, I'm going to shuck her to one side, exchange my hands. My right leg goes right next to her. My left hand grabs onto her lapel. And finally, knee on the solar plexus. And this leg is far enough away so she can't grab it. I don't want to be too much over her. I just kind of want to be on one side, really pressing down on her solar plexus. Again. Sally here, let's assume she might be sitting up. At the very least, I'm going to grab her knees. I'm going to shuck to one side. Exchange the hands. Come in and get to what we call knee on belly. So this is a pretty simple move, often, you know, taught in maybe the very first month. The biggest mistake that people might make is, you know, they're holding on to the knee fabric and then they move themselves around. It's best, you know, if you're an attacker, you want to give the person on the bottom as little space as possible. They, of course, on the other side, want to have as much space as possible. So if you walk around them, you're still giving them a lot of space. What I want to do is I want to shuck in and immediately come in and eliminate any of that extra space. Second, the mistakes you might make would be related to the knee on belly itself. So the knee on belly, which we cover in another episode with the baseball choke, you're going to have your knee right on their solar plexus, really putting all of your weight down there. You want to, you know, keep your foot as close to them as possible because you don't want them to be able to shrimp. I want to put this hand right here, really controlling and pressing down. And finally, as I was saying, this foot needs to be as far away from them as possible. If it's really close, and Sally, of course, can grab my ankle and maybe push me over also. That's not why I want to be over her. I kind of want to be to the side. So let's check it out one more time. Maybe from this angle. Again, Sally's on the floor. I'm going to grab her knees, shuck to one side, exchange my hands, come in, again, one more time, hold on to her knee fabric, shuck, exchange the hands. Again, I'm off to one side, really pressing down on her solar plexus. Foot's out of the range of her grabbing me. And then, of course, I can go to the baseball choke. That's another choke we've covered in an earlier episode. Or you can get to the mount and, you know, work from there. The second pass we're going to do is what we call the split pass. Now, the bullfighter pass is a standing pass because as you saw, we're standing on our feet. The split pass, you're actually going to start in what we call combat base. So it actually just looks like this. I'll do it from one side and then I'll, you know, change the angles. So, I'm going to be in what we call the combat base. My knee is going to be attached to my elbow and I'm going to be grabbing on, securing Sally's gi here. So, by doing this, I'm kind of making a wall. She prevents her from getting her knee in, which we then would call a knee shield, and that would prevent me from getting any closer to her. But when I do connect my knee to my elbow, to my lapel, you could kind of see I'm preventing her from, you know, wedging in that knee. So that's great. Holding in like this. I'm going to now do a couple of things almost at the same time, but not quite. First, my knee is going to go over her groin and hit the floor. Second, I'm going to underhook that leg and grab her lapel. So you can kind of see why it's called the split pass, because now I'm splitting her. The final movements I'm going to do are I'm going to reach over, underhook the head, maybe even press down on my shoulder. It's a cross face. I'm going to take this foot, lay out, and get to side control. Again, and then I'll move the angles. I'm going to be in combat base. Notice making my own wall and even grabbing the lapel, maybe, you know, really keeping her down. I don't want her to escape. I'm going to move this knee to the floor. Now, you'll notice that my top of my ankle is still trapping this bottom leg. That's very important. Underhook, and grab the lapel. Underhook the head. Really press down. Now this free leg, I'm going to lay out. You'll notice, or maybe you can't see, I'll show you. My bottom foot is still trapping her leg. Once I've laid out, and get to side control. Okay, let's do that from a few more angles. Again, combat base, grab her lapel, knee to the floor, underhook the leg, and grab her lapel. Underhook the head, lay out, and get to side control. So, again, pretty simple move. Again, the problems, the mistakes that people might make is, again, you, the top person, want to be as close to your opponent as possible. Of course, at the same time, they want to create as much space as possible. That's why people are always framing and that kind of thing from the bottom. So, as I mentioned, a common mistake would be, you know, I'm in combat base here, but I'm, you know, not securing this side in any way. You really want, I said, the knee and the elbow and grabbing the lapel. You really want to create that wall so that it prevents, you know, Sally here from sticking in that knee. And then this is a pressure pass. A pressure pass should cause so much discomfort, you're really pressing on, that they're almost relieved when you get past. You know, you really want to press on them as much as possible. I have no problems doing that. I love this kind of stuff. Again, so as close to them as possible. Really, they're not going to be able to, you know, get up on this side because I'm really, you know, pressing down on them. Really stapling this leg to the floor because, again, I have my knee on the floor. I'm underhooking this leg, grabbing this lapel. Now they're really compromised. Reaching over, and now my shoulder is on the side of her face. She really doesn't like that. That's a cross face. Now this final leg is going to lay out, but you can kind of see this leg is still trapping, you know, my leg is still trapping her foot, so she really can't get that leg out. So I'm laying out and get to side control. And then, of course, you know, once you're in side control, you can do the Americana, straight arm lock, you know, get to the mount. There's lots of options there. So let me do both again, and maybe you can add this to your toolbox. Again, grab, shuck, and bullfight pass to the knee on belly. So, combat base. Grab the lapel, really hold them down. Knee to the floor, staple this leg here, underhook, grab the lapel, reach over, grab the head, lay out, and side control. And then, of course, now you can do some of the many submissions that we've taught so far. So thank you for joining me. We'll do more guard passing again in the future. We have some other great passes, a variety of standing passes, and a bunch of pressure passes, again, which, as I said, I really love. Thank you for joining me for this another episode of Jiu Jitsu for Dummies. I welcome you to reach out to me. I have a Facebook page, Natalie Jiu Jitsu. Give me some suggestions. I'd love to hear from you. And thank you again for joining me for this episode of Jiu Jitsu for Dummies.